The golden hues of the sunset stretched across the towering glass skyscrapers of Manhattan, reflecting on the Hudson River like flickering flames, dancing on the water's surface. On the 38th floor of the Skyworks Tower, the headquarters of Rutherford Construction Group, Amelia Rutherford stood by the massive window, gripping a cup of coffee that had long gone cold. Below, the city that never slept continued to pulse with life. Crowds moving, buildings rising, cranes swinging, all bearing her mark. Amelia wasn't just an executive. She was the driving force that had propelled the East Coast's leading construction conglomerate into the future. Over the past 15 years, she had modernized its operations, built critical industry relationships, and most importantly, transformed Rutherford from an outdated family-run business into a finely tuned machine, ready to take on any competitor. Beyond the frosted glass door, a familiar voice rang out, sharp, confident, polished. Yes, this quarter's revenue exceeded expectations. Thanks to Amelia, of course. She just secured 3 major contracts. Amelia smirked. Jonas Rutherford, her younger brother, always knew how to play the part, but she understood the undertone behind his words. On the surface, it was recognition, but beneath it lay something more subtle, as if he were positioning her as a temporary asset, one whose time would eventually run out. Have you reviewed the materials for tomorrow's meeting with Orion developers? Jonas stepped inside, holding a thick folder. His dark brown hair was trimmed to perfection, and his sharp blue eyes carried an unmistakable air of calculation. Amelia took the documents, flipping through the pages. Everything looks fine, but their timeline is too ambitious. We have supply chain issues. It could push things back a few weeks. Jonas raised an eyebrow. You already spoke with Orion? Of course, she replied smoothly. They've agreed to adjust. We need to be realistic. Chasing impossible deadlines benefits no one. Jonas chuckled, though something flickered behind his gaze. You always have your own way of doing things. Amelia didn't respond. A strange unease crept into her mind, though she couldn't quite place its source. Somewhere within these glass walls, a storm was brewing. And this time, it wasn't just numbers on a financial report. That night, long after the last employee had left the office, Amelia remained at her desk. The usual hum of conversations and ringing phones had faded into an eerie silence, leaving only the soft ticking of the clock and the occasional distant horn from the streets below. The glow from her laptop screen illuminated her face as she reviewed the final estimates for the Orion Developers project. Numbers never lied, but people did. She leaned back, rolling her shoulders to relieve the tension that had settled there. Something about Jonas's demeanor earlier had unsettled her. It wasn't just his words, it was the way he said them, polished, composed, yet carrying a hint of something she couldn't quite name. A faint sound pulled her from her thoughts. Voices. Amelia frowned. She was supposed to be the only one on this floor. The janitorial staff worked on the lower levels at this hour, and security made their rounds at midnight. Quietly, she rose from her chair, stepping out into the dimly lit corridor. The voices were coming from the conference room at the end of the hall. The door was slightly ajar. She moved closer, her pulse quickening. I'm just not sure how Amelia will react, came a voice she recognized instantly. Her mother, Evelyn Rutherford. Amelia froze. What was her mother doing here at this hour? And who was she talking to? She edged forward, peering through the narrow gap in the door. A large laptop sat on the conference table. Jonas is video calling their parents. She's always been focused on customer relationships rather than the company itself, Jonas was saying. His voice was smooth, measured. She might be surprised when she sees the new corporate structure, but in the end, she'll go along with it. She always has. Amelia's breath caught in her throat. A new corporate structure. She forced herself to remain still, gripping the doorframe tightly. As the eldest, it's only natural for her to serve the family. Her father, Richard Rutherford, spoke up. His voice was weaker than usual. His illness had taken a toll. but his authority remained intact. But the company needs strong leadership. Jonas has the strategic mindset required for the modern market. Evelyn nodded in agreement. Amelia's excellent at what she does, but that isn't enough. Under this new structure, she'll be placed where she can excel most, without interfering in decision-making. Pain shot through Amelia's chest. They were demoting her. She clenched her fists, her nails digging into her palms. Jonas will be CEO, her mother continued. And Amelia, well, she'll have an important-sounding title, something related to technology and client relations. She doesn't need to be involved in board meetings. Jonas smiled. Exactly. She'll still be valuable, but ultimately, I'll be the one running the company. Her father coughed before speaking again. How do you think she'll react? Evelyn's response was calm, almost indifferent. She'll understand. We've always used her talents for the company's benefit. This is no different. Amelia's stomach twisted. Used. That was the word her mother had chosen. Used when needed, then discarded when convenient. Her breath came faster, but she forced herself to stay silent. Her family, her own blood, had never seen her as an equal. She was a tool, a means to an end. A sharp resolve settled within her. They thought she would simply accept this, that she would step aside, smile, and continue working for their vision. They were wrong. She turned on her heel and walked back to her office. Inside her drawer was a small notebook, one that no one in her family knew about. Inside was a list of names, contacts, allies, people who valued her not as a tool, but as a leader. She picked up her phone. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. Amelia gripped her phone tightly. The anger still burned in her chest, but she couldn't let it control her. This wasn't the time for reckless action. This was the time for strategy. She scrolled through her contact list, scanning the names, people in the industry who trusted her, partners she had spent over a decade building relationships with. They weren't loyal to Rutherford Construction Group. They were loyal to her. Finally, she stopped at one name, Robert Langford, a powerful investor in real estate and construction. He had watched her career since she was a young sales executive, impressed by her integrity and expertise. If anyone could help her turn the tide, it was Robert. She took a deep breath and called. The familiar deep voice answered after 2 rings. Amelia, a late-night call from you must mean something serious. I need to see you. As soon as possible, her voice was steady. Then tomorrow morning, 7 a.m., the rooftop restaurant at Langford Tower. Thank you, Robert. I'll be there. Hanging up, Amelia gazed out the window. The city kept moving, but for her, a storm was about to begin. 7 a.m. the next morning. The rooftop restaurant at Langford Tower was already buzzing with early business meetings, despite the sun barely rising over Manhattan. From here, Amelia had a clear view of the Hudson River and the streets below. Bathed in golden morning light, Robert Langford approached, looking sharp in a dark gray suit. Though in his 60s, he still carried the commanding presence of a man in full control of his world. He quickly stepped forward and shook hands with her. What's going on? Amelia didn't waste time. She laid it all out, the secret meeting, the plan to strip her of power, and how her family had seen her as nothing more than a tool to be used. Robert listened intently, his sharp blue eyes darkening as she spoke. When she finished, he took a sip of coffee, then spoke in a calm but firm voice. They're fools to underestimate you. Amelia smirked. The question is, what can I do to take back what's mine? Robert set his coffee down, tapping his fingers thoughtfully on the table. The answer lies in shares. His voice was measured. What's the current ownership structure? My father holds 45%, my mother 20%. Jonas and I each have 15%. The remaining 5% belongs to a group of longtime employees. Robert nodded. So the family controls the majority. But if an outside investor steps in, Amelia caught on immediately. My father will never sell. Robert smirked. A sick man often makes unexpected decisions, especially if faced with the threat of his company losing value. Amelia frowned. What do you mean? Robert leaned in. What's Rutherford Construction's greatest asset? Our buildings? Inventory? No. He shook his head. Your customer relationships. A realization struck Amelia. And who built most of those relationships? Robert raised an eyebrow. Amelia clenched her fist. I did. Exactly. Robert smiled. If Rutherford's biggest clients start expressing doubt about the company's future, its valuation will plummet. But if they declare their support for you, a plan was already forming in Amelia's mind. She thought of her most trusted clients, the ones who had worked with her for years. I'll invest all my savings to buy more shares, she said decisively. Robert nodded. And I'll handle the rest. We don't have much time, Robert chuckled. You're not the only one who's been betrayed, Amelia. But you will be one of the few who knows how to fight back. She clenched her fists, eyes sharp with determination. The game had just begun. 3 days later, the entire Rutherford Construction Group office was shrouded in an atmosphere of tension. Rumors of an important meeting had spread throughout the company, leaving everyone on edge. In the grand conference room on the top floor, all key personnel were present, their gazes fixed on the stage, where Richard Rutherford sat in his wheelchair, flanked by Evelyn and Jonas, the three of them preparing to announce a major shift in power. Amelia sat in the front row, silently observing. She was ready. Thank you all for being here today, Richard began, maintaining his authoritative demeanor despite his declining health. We have an important announcement regarding the future of Rutherford Construction. He paused, glancing at Evelyn. She stepped forward, wearing a confident smile. After months of careful consideration, we believe the company needs a clear strategic direction, she said, her voice steady. Therefore, we have decided to appoint Jonas Rutherford as the new CEO. A smattering of applause broke out, mixed with murmurs of surprise. Amelia's expression remained unchanged. Now was the time. Jonas stood, adjusted his suit jacket, and flashed a victorious smile. I am honored to take over the company that my family has built over generations, he declared. As CEO, I am committed to elevating Rutherford Construction to new heights. Before he could continue, the conference room doors swung open. Robert Langford walked in. The room fell into stunned silence. With an air of commanding presence, Robert strode forward, a folder in hand. Apologies for the interruption. His voice rang out, firm and unwavering. But I have an important announcement regarding Rutherford Construction's shareholder structure. All eyes turned to him. On stage, Richard's face turned pale. Evelyn clenched her fists, and Jonas furrowed his brows. I am here to officially announce that 51% of Rutherford Construction's shares have been transferred to a new shareholder group, Robert stated, opening the folder and revealing the legal documents. This change has been legally registered and is effective immediately. A wave of murmurs rippled through the room. Richard gripped the arms of his wheelchair, his voice trembling. Impossible. Amelia stood, all eyes locked onto her. She stepped forward, her gaze unwavering, determination burning in her eyes. Good morning, everyone, she said, her tone calm yet resolute. I also have an announcement. She turned toward her family, the very people who had schemed to push her aside, unaware that they were the ones about to be removed. As you all know, I have dedicated the past 15 years to Rutherford Construction. I have built client relationships, modernized our management systems, and played a crucial role in the company's success. But recently, I discovered that those I trusted most saw me as nothing more than a tool. She met Evelyn's gaze directly, her voice steady. They planned to sideline me, but they forgot one important thing. She paused, her eyes sweeping across the room. I am not a pawn to be played. The air in the room grew heavy. With 51% ownership, I have the authority to make executive decisions, Amelia continued. turning to Jonas, then to her parents. "And my first decision is to remove all of you from the company." A deadly silence engulfed the room. Richard's mouth fell open, unable to speak. Evelyn was frozen in shock. Jonas went rigid, his hands tightening into fists. Amelia did not stop. "Today marks the beginning of a new era for Rutherford Construction," she declared, addressing the employees, many of whom were still stunned but beginning to grasp the reality. A company where true talent is valued, not family connections. She turned back to the 3 people who had betrayed her. "You have 3 hours to clear out your offices. Security will escort you from the building." Then, without looking back, she walked away, leaving behind the hushed gasps and rising whispers filling the conference room. In the hallway, Robert placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Well done, Amelia." She closed her eyes and took a deep breath. The battle was over. But this was only the beginning of a new era. 1 year later, in the office, Amelia stood by the window, watching the ever-moving city. The world continued to change, and so had she. Beside her, Rachel Morrison, the company's new CEO, was reviewing the latest financial report. Revenue has increased by 25% compared to the same period last year. "Our team has done an incredible job." Amelia nodded, a satisfied smile appearing on her lips. This is the result of a collective effort. When people work in a fair environment, where real talent is recognized, they give their best. Since the day Amelia reclaimed control, Rutherford Construction Group had transformed completely. Under the leadership of Rachel as CEO and Amelia as Chief Strategy Officer, the company had not only flourished, but had also cultivated a new culture, one where competence was valued above family legacy. Employees worked more efficiently, partners placed greater trust in the company, and Rutherford's name was no longer tied to family inheritance, but to innovation and transparency. "I heard Robert is very pleased with these results." Rachel smiled, sipping her coffee. "His investment has doubled in just 1 year." Amelia chuckled. "He believed in me. I'm glad I didn't disappoint him." However, despite her professional success, there was one thing Amelia hadn't fully moved on from: her family. Her phone vibrated on the desk, displaying a message from Evelyn Rutherford. "Mom, do you have any plans for Thanksgiving? Your father Jonas and I would like to see you." Amelia set the phone down, staring at the screen in silence. Since being ousted from the company, Richard and Evelyn had moved to a modest apartment in Florida, living a quieter life than before. With no power, no grand offices, they had been forced to adjust to a new reality. And Jonas, stripped of his CEO title and the Rutherford fortune, he had struggled to find a suitable job and had eventually settled as a mid-level employee at a small building materials firm. Amelia didn't feel joy at their downfall, but she also couldn't forget what they had done to her. Rachel observed her hesitation. "Are you going to see them?" Amelia thought for a long moment before nodding slightly. "Maybe it's time." Rachel smiled. "Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means freeing yourself from the past." Amelia exhaled deeply, picked up her phone, and typed a simple reply. "All right, I'll think about it." Outside, the sunset cast a warm golden glow over the city. The battle to reclaim her place was over, but the journey to rediscover the meaning of family, perhaps, was only just beginning. 3 months later, Manhattan welcomed the rare winter sunshine. Rutherford Construction Group entered the new year strong. In the top floor office, Amelia glanced over the financial report. The company was growing steadily. Rachel walked in and handed her an envelope. "You should look at this." Amelia opened it, a handwritten letter from Richard Rutherford. "Amelia, Dad was wrong. He once placed power above everything else and lost the most precious thing, family. But you've proven you deserve more than anyone. Rutherford has grown because of you, and I'm proud of you. I hope that one day we can meet again, not as rivals, but as a real family. Richard Rutherford." Amelia gripped the letter tightly. This wasn't a plea, but an acknowledgement. Rachel looked at her, What will you do? Amelia took a deep breath. Maybe it's time to meet again. She picked up the phone and dialed the number. Dad, can we talk? Outside the window, the winter sunlight poured over Manhattan. A new chapter awaited ahead. Amelia's story teaches us that competence matters more than family lineage. Success does not come from status, but from dedication and the ability to create real value. When faced with betrayal, we can either break down or use it as motivation to rise stronger. Power is not everything. Richard and Evelyn lost both the company and their family because they prioritized ambition over relationships. People often realize what truly matters only after losing it. However, the story also shows that forgiveness is not about forgetting, but about freeing oneself from the past. Amelia did not forget what her family did, but she chose to leave the door open for reconciliation. Ultimately, an organization can only thrive when it values merit over privilege. Under new leadership, Rutherford Construction succeeded because it embraced transparency and fairness rather than nepotism. A true leader is not just the most capable person, but the one who creates the best environment for everyone to grow. If you enjoy deep, emotional, and meaningful stories like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new update. Your support is the motivation that drives us to keep bringing you powerful stories. Once again, thank you for being here, and see you in the next story.